Hi folks, Mike Schramke with Larry Stove Sand Equipment, the world's largest coyote dealer. Today another how-to video with the infamous Jake Mahalko, our service manager. Hooking up a 3-point implement, and for those that operate a PTO and a 3-point implement, it might be a little overwhelming or intimidating when you first start out. Jake is going to show you that it is completely doable, and he's going to show you a couple of things. Our tractors, like everyone else's, come with two different types of 3-point linkages, and he'll show you what they are. And some implements, like a box scraper, don't use a PTO at all. Some, like this rotary cutter, have a PTO with a drive shaft, so they hook up, a little differently as well. Not to get into the whole history, but in 1926, Harry Ferguson, an Irishman, invented the Ferguson system, which is the 3-point system. So next year it'll be 100 years old. It is exactly the same system we use today. Now we have a couple of niceties and a couple of things that make the job a little easier to hook up, but it is exactly the way it was 99 years ago when he invented it. And in 1939, the first tractor that had it was the Ford 9N series. Harry Ferguson and Henry Ford got into business together and made the N series. It overtook the world. Up till then, tractors dragged. They had a drawbar, and that's what they did. They dragged stuff. With the 3-point, the implement could be lifted up, taken out to the field, and set back down. Harry Ferguson invented it 99 years ago, and Jake Mahalko is going to show us how to do it. Jake?
Welcome back to another how-to, folks. So, like Mike said, a lot of people can be intimidated by hooking up some basic implements, ones that people are typically interested whenever you're looking at a tractor, whether it's a rotary cutter, box scraper. We're going to start with this one. We're going to hook up the rotary cutter. This one, just like every other implement, has 2 lower links, 1 upper link. Lower links are going to go to your lower links, which these are the standard size ones. This is a regular category 1 hookup. It's all fixed in place. It gets the job done. So we'll start with this first. We'll get it hooked up. And a little fun fact that I'd like to share with you folks is I've even had people question me what these little tabs are on the inside of your lower link is for. I know most tractors, when they come from the factory, people put bungee cords on them just to keep the links from flailing in the wind. What these are actually for, and most people don't know this, is to store your linchpin when you disengage an implement from the back of the tractor, so they're always there. Little fun fact. But let's get this thing hooked up. As in all the videos, you need to make sure everything's met in order to start the tractor. Parking brake set, everything's in neutral. So this is a gear drive tractor. We're going to go low and first. Low and slow is the name of the game. We're going to try to back up to this as slowly and carefully as possible and try to get as centered as possible. It'll make everybody's life a lot easier. Once you're close, start dropping your 3-point down and see where we got to go. I actually like to leave them up a little bit until I get to exactly where I need to be. All right. Tractor's in park, neutral, neutral. So even here, when we go to start installing this, you always want to start with the left link. The reason being is this lift rod is fixed. This one is where you get all the adjustment from. So, remove our linchpin. See how close we got. We do have the advantage of using a tractor for this that does have an external bar that hooks to all the 3-point linkages, so you can adjust your 3-point up and down from the rear. Super handy. So let's see how close we are. This one will have to move a little bit. Hey, you might have to finagle a little bit. It's part of it. Now even over here, I'm about a whole hole off. If you're using something small, like a box scraper that you want to drag around, you could do that to shift it into place, or you could hop back on the tractor and back up that little bit. We are on a smooth concrete floor right now. I'll just see if I can shift it a little bit. All right, that may have done the trick. A little low. Bring it up. All right. Have to come over just a little bit more. All right. Make sure you have enough slack in your check chain. And these are the stabilizer links on the sides of your lower links that just keep everything from swaying. So there's one on. Linchpin in. And whenever you go to put your pins in too, I'm a little OCD about this one. If the opportunity presents itself to where you can do it, always try to put your pins in from the top down. The reason being, I can show you on this top link real quick. If you put it top down, if something happens and it gets flipped up and it's in this position, it can't go anywhere. If it's this way and somehow it gets flipped open, it can fall out and fall off. So just do whatever you can to keep yourself in good standings. All right, let's come around to the other side now. All right, so here we're a little off again. Let's give it another pull. And this is where using this adjustment link comes into play now. So now that one's hooked up. Run this down. Make sure we've got enough slack in the check chain. And on she goes. Don't worry about tightening up your check chains right now. Once everything's fully hooked up, we'll raise up the 3-point and we'll make sure we're centered side to side. Before you hook up your top link, I'd recommend hooking up your PTO shaft just so you don't bop your head into this. Lift up your shield. If you like storing your tractor with the cap on it, remove the cap. If not, don't worry about it. Put it over in the cup holder for safekeeping. Make sure your splines are lined up. You might have to give it a wiggle and a jiggle, but I promise it'll go. And right there, you saw the plunger go back out. It's locked onto the PTO, coming off the tractor. It can't go anywhere. Shield down. All this chain is here for is to keep this sheath from spinning around. See, on this side, we do have it tethered off to one of the parts of the tree on the cutter. And this one, every tractor's got a hole in the back of the PTO shield. I like to pull it through and just get it clipped on there. It can't get tangled, it can't spin around. After 100 years of use, you might lose the shield, you don't have to worry about the chain, but for a new one, that's what we're gonna do. Now let's do the top link. Do that. Off the hanger, run it out, run it out. First or second hole, doesn't matter. It's all personal preference. All right, now, like I said, if you can get this going in vertically, that's the best orientation to ensure the pin doesn't fall out, this pin come out, and it possibly come off the top link. And at this point, I'd like to take just a little tension. You don't have to tighten it up, but just get it a little snug. Run your jam nut back in. This will keep this from turning back out. If you prefer, most of our tractors do come standard with a toolbox. I highly recommend keeping an adjustable wrench in your toolbox. It is the best tool you can have to do everything back here. All right, so we got 3 points hooked up, PTO shafts hooked up. Step out of the way and let's pick it up. All right, just get it off the ground. And now we have to do two things. We're hooked up. We need to make sure it's centered behind the tractor. So in this instance, we're using a rotary cutter. You want to make sure it's centered so you're cutting everything you're driving over. If it's offset, you might miss some. You're not going to end up with good tracks. So just kind of eye it up a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. If you come to the back of the tractor, we can kind of look left and right. And once you're where you'd like to be, come back over and tighten up our check chains. Right one's done. We'll come back over to the left side. Run this one in. And if I was actually going to take this outside, we were talking about that handy adjustable wrench earlier. You need to snug up these jam nuts once it's where you'd like it to be. You can even see it just drew that out. It's tight against the pin. You're not going to have any sway driving through the field. All right. Last thing you need to do is try to make sure it's as level as you can get, especially if you're about to go do some grading. So even here, you can take a step back and kind of look at the reveal between the top of the cutter and the bottom of the tire. Just pick a point. It's all personal preference, but that's what I like to do. So the right side actually has to go down just a little bit. So we'll drop this down. Run that out a little bit. Pick it up, go check it again. That looks pretty darn spot on. Same thing with your turnbuckles once you're where you want to be. This also has a jam nut with a couple thumb handles on it. Tighten that up and now you're all hooked up. You're ready to drive off and go take care of your fields.
All right, what Jake just showed you was installing on a standard tractor that does not have telescopic lower link ends or telescopic stabilizers, and some tractors do. And in fact, the tractor that he just demonstrated that on, it is available as an option. It's not expensive. It's under $500.
I don't even think it's that much, truthfully.
It's $400. It's not expensive. So if after he shows you this, you think, that's the Mac Daddy, then just ask about it. Okay, so this tractor, which is an NS, does have telescopic lower link ends and telescopic stabilizers, and he's going to demonstrate installation of a box scraper.
Yes, folks, like Mike was saying, these do come with the telescopic lower link ends and check chains. Big advantage is, like we showed you on the other unit, you had to be a little bit more precise with where you went. This, the beauty, you can unlatch this, pull it out, you get an extra 3 inches of wiggle room and also a little bit of up and down. So you don't have to be 100% dead on with where you're hooking up to because you have the adjustment here. And when you're done, they slide right back in. They're great. I have a set on my tractor. I love them. All right, so first thing, let's hop on here and start her up. And this unit is a hydrostat model. We're gonna do the same thing, low, and try to back up to this as close as we can, but because of those beautiful telescopic lower links, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's gotta be close. All right. I'm actually gonna stop it right there because I wanna show you folks what a game changer telescopic lower link ends are. So even here, it's close. It's not perfect, but that's the beauty of these. So even these have the pin style check chains. Also comes with a holder. You can put them right on the side. You can unpin that. set in a place you won't lose it. And then from here, all you gotta do is hit it down and get it close. That one's in, R-clip in. Don't worry about the check chain right now. Come over this side. You can see even this one's lower. There should be enough slack in here. Unpin this so we have a little bit of movement if we need it. Well, we actually do have to come up a little bit. Snug, pin in, no PTO shaft to hook up. Now I'd say at this point you have two options. It's 100% personal preference, and I think it also depends on what implement you're hooking up at the time, because we still have to lock these telescopic links back in. So we could do one of two things. One, it works great if you're in the field to pick up your 3-point a little bit before hooking up your top link. And you could back up onto the links. Once you hear 2 clicks, you know they're both back engaged. They're not going to slide out on you. We're on a smooth concrete floor, and for once, it's not going to help us in this situation. So we'll try this. We'll hook up our top link. Now, this is a premium tractor. It does come with the feature of draft control on it. If you want that draft control to work optimally, you can see on the back of the tractor there's a couple different pin settings. It needs to be in the lower hole. Got our top link pin. I know this looks like it's being run out pretty far, but trust me, it's going to go back in. It's just for hooking it up. Then pin down if possible. Now even from here, this has a pretty good handle on it. You can either try picking up the tractor. Sometimes if you just start turning this in, everything will slide right in. Let's try this first. All right, it is drawing in. For sure. Even though this top link doesn't have any grease fittings on it, like Mike said, keep it lubricated. Once a year, take this thing apart. Wire wheel it if you want. Grease it. Grease is a natural water repellent. If you can keep this thing packed full, water's not going to get in, rust won't develop. So we did get one link to engage. And there goes the other one. All right. Jam nut's a little stuck, but typically run that back down and make sure it's where you want to. All right. We're going to do the same thing with this that we did with the rotary cutter. We're going to pick it up. And mind where you're standing. Pick it up just a little bit. So, I want to check for how centered we are, left and right. It's pretty darn centered. Might have to come back this way a little bit. Now, on these pin style check links, just want to see what hole you're close to and get it pinned. There's one, no turnbuckle. Head over here, we'll pick another one. And we're pinned. Last thing, let's check our level. Right side's got to come up a little bit, so stand off to the side of the tractor. This thing comes down on your foot, it's not going to feel too great. Do that. Loosen that up. And it's gonna come up a little bit. Snug it back down. And when you go to make these adjustments on this link, depending how close you are, it's more of a feel. Go a half to a full turn at a time unless it's really off. It does move quicker. It's a very coarse thread. Pick it back up and see how we look. Actually has to come up just a little bit more. Drop it back down. Loosen up our jam nut. Run it in probably 3/4 of a turn. We'll try that. We'll give it another look-see. How we looking there, Mike?
Looks level to me.
All right. That's how you hook up a 3-point implement without a PTO shaft. You ready to go off, do your grading? If you are using something like a box, even now, it is pitched forward a little bit depending on what you're doing. You might want to adjust the angle if you're going to be trying to dig up more earth, or if you're trying to actually grade with the back. It's a little bit of preference depending on what you plan on doing. That's all there is to it, folks. Have a good one.
Jake, that was awesome. Folks, if you were paying attention, and I was, Jake installed this implement right here, which included the 3-point hookup and the PTO, and it was not one with telescopic link ends, in 11 minutes. Now, Jake does a lot of these, and he owns a tractor, so he's got a boatload of experience at this. But, your first time you'll goof around, you'll spend 20, 25 minutes, and believe me, you'll get down to 11 minutes. One thing I'd like to point out is, and we see it quite a bit, and we even put stickers on the tractor to try to help people remember this. These nuts right here and the jam nuts that keep the stabilizers tight need to be tightened, and they need to be tightened every day. And what happens is the vibration, it's a tractor, the vibration will eventually knock them loose, and they'll drop out in the field and go right through the rotary cutter, and you'll be back to the dealership to buy another lower link. So just keep those snugged, and as Jake said, keep a wrench. Yeah, you don't want to be 100 acres away from the barn and need a wrench, or a hammer, really, you need a hammer too. I like hammers.
If you got a good enough adjustable wrench, it's a multi-tool.
Jake, as you saw, can do this without a hammer. I cannot. Anyway, that's it. Thank you, and give us a like, give us a share, and please subscribe. And I think that went well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
I'm getting old waiting for you to hit the subscribe button.